now without our shitty microphone that won't work. So we're just using the onboard audio. Hopefully it works. Okay, I have put the groceries away. I have acquired my book pile. I have like a few books to look at. But for now, we are looking at big, important art book, now with women. Last time on Library Hall, we looked at Annie Kevins, Naomi Okuba, whose work I liked a lot, Catherine Grapham, and now we're going from portraits to tell a visual story. So this book is not only curated like collection of artists, but it's also, my brain is not working. It's also got projects in it. So at the beginning of the portrait section, there's a project here that sort of talks you through a project you can do of self-portraits. I'm not going to talk about those because it's not when I got the book. I just want to look at the artists. I'm having a little bit of difficulty not getting like a major shine on the book because of lights, but you know what, we're going to do our best. I might turn this one a little. Now it's too dark. Yes, that's the nature of shiny books, my friends. That is the nature. All right. Take a deep breath. Everything's fine. Okay. Esther Pearl Watson, born in 1973, Germany and the US. These are acrylic on panel. That's the dog running into the tripod. Excellent, excellent work. This one also has glitter. I think the... See? Yep. Oh no, interesting. This artist mixes it up, uses acrylic and foil on wood panel, mixed media on wood panel, acrylic on wood. So we're working with mostly acrylic and added materials, mixed materials on wood panels. Right out the gate, we got aliens or some kind of saucer thing, and just like signs of destruction and dereliction painted in what I think often is rudely referred to as a naive style. But I think I would call honest? I don't know. It feels true to the person making it instead of true to an aesthetic ideal that that artist may or may not have cared about. Interesting that it has this big black gumdrop shape over the saucer. And the little people. I think they're people. And again, there's detritus and little animals and things. The images are rural. These are not built up cities. And there's lots of children playing and these great big eyes. Everyone has these larger than life eyes. UFOs and tiny Texan homes of her childhood. Interesting. So they're both the landscapes and the stories of her childhood. While the UFOs and tiny Texan houses of her childhood are still showing up in her work, Esther continues to bring new stories to the art table. According to Esther, new stories come from road trips, are a wonderful source of bizarre narratives, going on countless adventures. Interesting, so these are, in some ways, just like life depictions. If I can ever get my camera to focus correctly. The paint seems very gentle, almost. Like, nothing is overworked. Nothing is, none of the line quality of the paintings are, fretted over, maybe is a good way to put it. The paintings feel unhurried and gentle. Also has done graphic novel type stuff. Okay. Siona Hong, 1973, USA. Again, we're looking at people in landscapes, but now we've gone totally abstract. We're working in acrylic on canvas. From lyrics from a song, lines from a book, personal experiences, these are just a few of the places that California-born and raised artist Siona Hong finds the starting points for her narrative paintings. From there, the stories could turn into just about anything, especially once the viewer gets involved. Interesting that at least the book is saying that the artist prefers the stories come, at least in some part, from the viewer. I actually prefer having their stories and interpretations even more. It's a good reminder that we're not alone, even when it feels like it. Some experiences are simply universal. Interesting. I see tigers, obviously, in a hilly, rocky landscape populated by some kind of like city shapes over here, little houses or huts. And then we have this figure separate from the lions, maybe across some kind of plain or river, some kind of geographical boundary. Protected from them, or lost, maybe. More animals in these abstract landscapes. These almost read as like the insides of shells or, rocky outcroppings with trees. Maybe cliffs of eroded stone. Those kind of remind me of when you see sudden sedimentary rock that's been sort of pushed up in different angles, and the cliff faces are all crenellated like that. More animals and people and landscapes. These are visually interesting, but they don't draw me in as much as Naomi Osama, or Okubo, sorry, Naomi Okubo's work does. This work is, to me at least, I am a visual maximalist, so these are interesting and I like the colors a lot, but the textures don't draw me in as much, and so I see less story in them, and that could just be me. A person hiding among desert rocks with these paint sample pieces behind. These definitely feel like paintings about painting, since the backgrounds are built from paint chips. Paintings about color. All right, Phyllis Bramson, born in 1941 in USA. And I should be able to see the chat. Let me see if I have it on live chat. Yeah. There we go. Phyllis Bramson. I love that it's so delicately painted in the parts that are full color here. This is, again, something that we saw earlier in the book with Naomi. The difference in render quality between different sections of the painting is really what gives it interest. So, like, this feels unfinished, as do the feet. The dress feels, and the hand feels, like, hyper finished. And then everything else is sort of in this in-between ground. And these birds referencing, like, red work, which is a kind of red on white embroidery style that was popular, I think, beginning in the late 18th century, early 19th century. Red work was a common way to teach children embroidery. So it's interesting, like, this childlike figure with very childlike shoes. There's a lot of childlike imagery going in here. Every summer throughout her high school years, American artist Phyllis Brampton went to the University of Wisconsin Madison's summer art program. She was obviously the youngest student there, but most likely one of the most enthusiastic. Oh wow, there's a lot of variety in her images. With, again, with Naomi Okubo, we saw, over the course of several years, variation within the type of image being painted, but you could still very clearly tell that these are painted by the same artist with this, faceless figure. But now we're seeing an artist who you might not necessarily, like, look at these paintings side by side and think, like, that's the same artist, unless you saw them in the same show. The use of depth totally changes. This is more in a world of literally, like, thoughts and images and speech bubbles and clouds of thoughts, sort of the artist's experience of their own work. And then this piece, while some of those thoughts and images bubbles come in, there is, like, an actual setting. There's a depth setting. The faces especially do carry from painting to painting. The colors changing a lot. So we're getting these very saturated, like, purples and blues that you don't get in the other paintings. They feel very expressive and lyrical and like a person who trusts themselves. Like a person who you feel like they're made by someone who really trusts their eye and their hand to lead them to the work instead of trying to direct the work down a specific path. These feel like paintings that were not sketched in advance, but instead painted sort of intuitively directly on the canvas. I could be wrong, obviously, but I often refer to my work as abstract narrative because I don't like to explain what the overall painting means. There are hints or clues, though. The snowman might indicate aging and therefore melancholy and loss, and a clown plays with the notion of folly. And then, of course, there are various images that talk about peccadilloes of love. So, big themes of death and joy and love. Interestingly, those are not themes I ever use in my work. Am I resistant to the idea of death and joy and love? I don't think so. But yeah, my personal work centers a lot around rules and systems of rules and variations on rules and how when you change a certain rule set, the effects of that change on the system. But yeah, I don't generally make work about feelings. Even the pandemic papers paintings, which had a lot of feelings in them, did not originate as like, I'm gonna make paintings about the feelings of the pandemic. They were attempts to archive a situation. Yeah, they were attempts at archiving. Okay, obsess, meditate, repeat. I'm already loving this. Repeat is my favorite art thing. Do it a million times. Alright. Gunjan. I la wadi. Gunjan I la wadi. I am probably pronouncing that wrong, but I'm trying. Born in 1986, India and Australia. So this person is my age. Interesting. They're working in paper and glue. Wow, these are beautiful. So strips of paper cut and twisted into these long coils, I guess would be the word for that. And then the coils are woven and glued. There's no, I guess not woven technically, since we're not seeing intersecting strands. So these are stacked, I guess would be the word for that. They have these like deep recesses. Low contrast but high saturation and interesting combinations of like the white purple and white red and then these uninterrupted sections of purple. Wow, that's really beautiful. It's called Blossom. Paper and glue. Like most artists who work in a meticulous manner, Gunjan is not the same person when she is making her work. She describes it as an out-of-body experience to the point where when she sees her large works at an exhibition, she finds herself wondering who did this big, wonderful piece. Interesting. Here's a picture of her hands working. They feel a lot like sand paintings. With these radial symmetries and shallow depths that cast these beautiful shadows. Wow. They also feel a bit like mousetrap interchanges from above, like clover interchanges. Blissful Mountain. Wow, I wonder how long they take to make. Alright. Nike Schroeder. Nike Schroeder. 1981, Germany. What are we looking at? Rayon threads on canvas over custom panel. What's this? Neon? No, rayon. Rayon threads on canvas. Acrylic and rayon on Belgium linen. Belgium linen is a common painting surface. It's interesting that they're using like this very fancy painting surface to do these mixed media images. Oh, interesting. Okay. So there's some abstract painting going on, but then there's also some pictorial embroidery happening. These read to me as medical people with the red like cross. This might be a light since it has this direction. Angles are interesting. Now again, we're using the color to like fill in and create these like moments of light happening in the embroidery. And then we go back to the abstract pieces where the threads, instead of being used in this, you know, either depictive or dangling way, just using those directional quality with multiple layers of the thread. All right, Sarah G. Miller. Collage on mat board. Paper on mat board. Drawing. Pen on Stonehenge paper. So these are drawn in pen. And this one is collage. My work is very meditative. It's a familiar dance, and I know all the moves. I spend 8 hours painting stripes and making sure every single line is perfect, or laying down thousands of individual dots, and the thousandth one has to be as perfect as the first. I don't really know how or why I can do it. I'm not really a patient person. I guess it's pure stubbornness. Sometimes you can be an artist just out of spite. All right, bringing the outside in. Working with natural materials. Rebecca Louise Law. Is there? Okay. Mixed flora, copper wire. So I'm assuming it's dried. Like dried flowers. Man, I wonder what it's like to lay on your back under this thing and have this like landscape of flowers hanging over you. Wow. I wonder if they start fresh and over the course of the installation desiccate. Like, I wonder if that's part of the experience of the piece. Wow. Susanna Bauer, Germany and the UK, born in 1969. Cube tree, magnolia leaves, cotton yarn, and wood. So leaves cut and made into boxes and then reattached to twigs. Wow, really, really delicate embroidery work done on what is already like a very fragile material. Wow, look at that. Lace embellishment on the edges of leaves. That's bonkers. What the hex? All right, Bobby Burgers. I think we're back to a painter. Yeah, acrylic on canvas. Canada, born 1973. This is the kind of stuff that feels really good to make, but I have a very hard time connecting with visually. All right, create extraordinary from ordinary. Anne Kerrigan, born 1962 in the UK. Buttons on canvas? Interesting. So it's beading, essentially. They must be really small buttons. Wow. Whoa, so this is beading. Hammersmith beer cans? No way. I'm totally wrong. It looks so much like beading, but it's actually beer cans just like beaten with a hammer essentially to flatten them and then to perforate them into the image. So everywhere you see white is essentially a perforation in the can. This is bonkers. Maybe it's not even a perforation, it's just like a hill. Looks kind of like a perforation. I don't know, it removes the color in the can. Ooh, 3D work also. So these are kitchen, oh, this I love so much. So these are kitchen objects. So spoons, forks, knives, all bent and collected into these floral patterns. Oh, I love this. Oh, no knives, it's just spoons and forks. And it's called Devil's Trumpet. Wow. I wonder where that is now. It must be so difficult to dust it. So beautiful. This is another one done with buttons. This is the kind of work that I love because I love accumulations. I love work that's just made out of like a million tiny bips of something. Bip. Molly Hatch. What you got for us, Molly? Earthenware plates glaze. Oh, I see. Giant images made out of like collections of plates. Inspired by lace. Interesting sort of like reference to pixelation or dot printing. Amalgamations. Tanya Corkley. What are we looking at? Oh, born 1989 in Canada. Lint on canvas. So it's... I think it's felting. So I began by experimenting on a sheet of felt on which I copied Cloud Study by John Constable. This is how I discovered the beauty of lint. Immediately afterward, I tried doing a self-portrait to see how the material would work on canvas and to experiment with protective sealants. She got the lint from the laundry, the apartment building with shared laundry, and asked friends and family and teachers to save lint for her. Interesting. So it's the detritus of her and her family's clothing, felted into portraits. Yeah, those are beautiful. You can probably tell. Art that has like not just a good like image, like not just a good like audio experience, but something that the process is interesting, I'm much more likely to be into it. I think I'm getting tired and it's time to go make some of my own art. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.